my name is Roger Wenzel. I work as a mechanical engineer for a company called Canon Nanotechnologies. I've been doing engineering CAD work for close to 30 years now, and I've been struggling with back pain for a little over 25 of that. And the simple fact is the back pain has limited my time to work more than anything else has. And so I've discovered that in an inclined position, I am able to work much longer and get a lot more, be very, very much more productive. The challenge I had is I went out back in November, worse than it's ever done before, and I was actually laid in bed for about a month. And it was the first time in my life where I didn't think I could support my family, where I didn't know if I would be able to work. So I discovered the workstation option, and in a moment of desperation, I went ahead and bought a used Altwork Workstation that I was able to find on Amazon Marketplace. And at the same time, I worked with my company to find a more permanent solution with ErgoQuest. And I'm glad to say that today will be the install day of the ErgoQuest. And I can't wait to compare and contrast the two units, as I've been able to use both at the end of the day. So as you can see, I'm not a small guy, and it is clear that the Altwork is only designed for people up to 300 pounds, which I guess if you're in England, that might be most of the population. But here in America, we do have bigger people, and I am one of them. And so I've had to make quite a few mods just to be able to utilize the desk in the temporary form that I have it. And so if you want, I'll walk you through kind of what I've had to do to sit down and utilize it. So first thing, as you can see, I wanted it facing to where I could see the driveway, and it only comes in the left-hand configuration, which means that in the particular room that I needed, I have to walk around it. You can also notice that obviously I'm a big guy, so the chair is really small compared to my hips. And the other thing you'll notice is one of the limitations that I've had is getting the monitor where I want it. If you look at the adjustment here, this is as high as the monitor can go. And I personally, at my size, would like it to be about a foot higher than where it is. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to with the ErgoQuest is the ability to adjust the monitor to my line of sight so I can see quite a bit better. So this is about the position that I normally work in. But the other thing you'll notice is the footrest is so small that I have to pretty much cross my legs. So most of the time when I'm working on it, I find this to be a more comfortable position. The other thing is I never could quite get the head where I wanted it, so I bought this pillow. And no matter how many ways I would try to adjust the way this adjusts, the only thing that really worked, because I can't get the monitor higher, is I had to put the pillow to try to get my head tilted where I could go to the monitor instead of the monitor coming to my head. This does pull out, although it's not the best mechanism. You definitely have to pick up to move it in and out, otherwise it will jam up on you. The other thing you'll notice is because I use a space mouse for doing CAD work, that I am not able to fit everything on the width. And I switched to the trackpad for the laying down position so that it could be stable. I've never been able to get along with a trackball very well, which the combination of this and this has worked really well. The tray is really narrow. And the other thing that you can see is that if you're a wider guy, the chair here has no chance of supporting your arms at all, even with the wider back for a big man like myself. And so when I first got it, it was almost impossible to try to work like this, as your arms just got really fatigued trying to hold them up, all day. So I was fortunate enough that I have a 3D printer, and I was able to get these little adapter arms and this. But even though it has worked for a few months, pretty much every day I've been, waiting for the ErgoQuest to come so that I can eliminate the need for this. In fact, one of the things I'm excited about the ErgoQuest is it will be the first piece of furniture I've ever sat in my entire life that was actually built to fit me. I've never sat in anything where the armrests are tall enough or the headrest is, where I need it. And so that is, pretty exciting. You can adjust, but it's a weird adjustment. So it has this here, which allows you to pivot and go up and down. But as you can see, it never quite gets your head where you want it. Because I can't get the monitor like right here where I would want the monitor. Yeah, I would like the monitor about a foot higher and then tilted a bit more, and to where the monitor came forward more. And so that's where, this thing here has come in to help out a little bit with that. The workstation doesn't adjust where I want it either. I would rather the workstation be at a slightly, so I don't have to look down at my keyboard like this. I would like the workstation to be like right here. And it will tilt more, although the tilt mechanism is pretty hokey. It's just this thing here, which you have to tighten and loosen. And it's a slick knob. And to get it to where it's really tight enough to stay, you have to really crank on it. And so it's not that easy. And in fact, the mechanism that slides it in and out, it doesn't work unless you pick it up. And for the first time in something like 20 years, in this position, I will say, I'm able to work for a couple of hours without pain. And that's never been true before. And so like even this keyboard and mouse, you can see I had to 3D print something to put it up here because there's no way to put it on. It's supposed to be right here on the tray, so the microphone is closer to me. And there's no place here on the tray. And if I do put something here and I go to stand up, if I forget to put this down, the monitor wants to take my keyboard and knock it right off. So you have to make sure you do that first. And you have to have, to just swing that out. It looks like the unit is smaller, but honestly, by the time you have space to swing that far enough out to where you can stand up, and even because it has to move out at an angle, now when you stand up, I'm facing the edge of the big monitor. Yeah. The only good thing I can really say about it is it is fairly elegant looking. I mean, they did make it a nice compact unit, but at the same time, if it's compact and doesn't really fit your needs, then it's not that great. I do have a little laptop or a second monitor that can mount there, but it's really not that adjustable, nor have I haven't used it with the ultra wide, because the ultra wide having one on the side, it would just be right here in the way. I was just thinking the same thing. The cord management is a little bit non-existent. They put a few tie wraps right here.
Couple zip ties.
And they've got some mounts right here for zip ties, and then you can run that power cord in there. And then they have their cable, which is buried in here, more or less, which runs up to here. Which, believe it or not, this is kind of in an odd spot anyway, if you have a nice wide setup like I do. And I thought the magnetic surface would be handy, but it turns out it's not. It's kind of a pain to figure out a way. As you can see for my keyboard, I ended up just putting some heavy magnets there to try to kind of hold it in place. I did investigate 3D printing some things to try to hold the monitor better, but since I knew I had a different system coming, I just made this work for now. In fact, this I think I just had to tape down, which we'll have to figure out how to break that tape because it's actually pretty solid. I think they have magnetic keyboards that they recommend, I guess, which I don't have. Because of my wide nature, I have to have a curved keyboard. I can't use a straight keyboard. My shoulders are too wide. And then they have that little mouse tray, which is made for a magnetic mouse. So that thing is removable, and it actually can stick on the. Let me pivot this back. I'll show you. I think the idea for some people is that this is sort of the width extension. But as you can see, I've got magnets popping all over the place. But I think that is, to get it wider. But I had to clip this on. And so, yeah, the magnets are not as desirable as I thought they would be. And this, I just ended up gluing it down because I had to put it. It was harder to get the magnets to work because I had to accommodate this clamp. But see, you can rotate it to closer to the position I want. But then the monitor not being able to go higher, it hits right here. You can tilt this down. So if you need to shift during your, your working day, let's see, that's as far up as it can go. Yeah, it's just, I think if someone is smaller, this also tilts down. So for a smaller person, they can maybe get this down, and then that separates the monitor from the keyboard. But that would only work for, as you can see, that would work for maybe a much smaller person. So first impression sitting in it for the first time is how way more comfortable it is, mainly because my feet are able to fit in a natural wide position, and the simple fact that my elbows also have a very natural resting point where I did not have any resting point on the Altwork Station until I tried to rig something. And so I am also noticing that it is very nice to be able to get the monitor in an actual position that I need it to be in and tilt it back and get it higher so that my chin does not have to be buried into my chest, but my head can be in a very comfortable position backwards. Then on the head, I can, tilt it to the monitor just a little bit more. And boy, that is a really natural, comfortable position.
And then throughout the day, you can easily move it back and forth, which really, really is nice. Having the big wide surface is an incredible bonus because you can lay your devices out, especially if you use multiple devices like a Space Mouse for doing computer-aided drafting for CAD. And if you have a wide keyboard like I do, I have a wide chest, so I have to do a curved or split keyboard, one or the other. And I find the surface to be way more comfortable than the metal surface that was on the Alt Workstation with a little extra padding for the elbows right here. Really creates a comfortable spot. And not only that, but being able to just easily kind of find a sweet spot for the monitor and move it around works really well. And then the tilt on the monitor is really, really, really handy to be able to just kind of find that nice sweet spot. And if you tilt your monitor a little bit and you decide to change that, then you can very easily adjust the head profile to that. And then if you need to be in a little bit more flat position, this is really nice where it gives you a little bit of an idea of what the actual angle you're in. And then you can just kind of shift this back. And I'm sure as I work in it over the next week, I'll probably change the position quite a bit to find just that sweet spot. And then once I find it, it'll be nice that I'll be able to kind of come right back to it. So I go in about 6'2" to 6'3" in height. And I am pushing close to 450 to 440 pounds, somewhere in between there. And I've always had really wide barrel chest. And in fact, this is the first piece of furniture I've ever sat in that actually fits me, that is big enough, comfortable enough to where my knees are supported and they're not hanging off the edge, to where my feet can be wide enough to where it's a natural position because my hips like to go out instead of in. And then also any headrest I've ever tried to use in the past is typically at my lower neck to mid back. It never actually is a headrest. And this headrest is plenty tall enough. You can see that even if I was taller, this model would work really well for a taller person. And I can't say enough about the fact that the arms are tall enough to be supported. I've always wondered why they put armrest on chairs. I have never sat in a chair and used the armrest. My arms have always been 6 to 7 inches above the armrest. And with the customization that ErgoQuest is willing to do, they're able to, through their meeting where they sit down and show you the build process, make adjustments to things like the armrest height to make it a little higher. And that is not something you're going to get with one of the other manufacturers, that is for sure. About 20 years ago, as I started having back pain, I was thinking that something like this should exist. And I had no idea that it really did exist until I started researching a few months ago when my back made it to where I could not sit at all. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I would be able to support my family. And in this position, I am able to do CAD work for hours at a time in comfort. In fact, the only downside I would say to this setup is I'm probably going to have to set a timer to remind myself to get up and walk around on occasion, because otherwise I probably will work too long.